There is a high possibility that you have a method in mind for starting and growing a successful e-commerce business, and chances are it goes something like this. You want to create your product, then you want to create content around that product, i.e. create content yourself or hire influencers to create that content. You want to build a community around your brand, and then you want to start making sales. Now, this is the typical approach for launching an e-commerce business. Ask any beginner, and this is exactly what they would tell you. However, there are different approaches to launching and having a successful e-commerce business. And in this video, I want to share a different approach with you. I call this doing e-commerce in reverse. Now, instead of going out and creating a product and trying to create content and building a community to make sales, this is an approach that I've found to be quite successful, and it's quite common amongst micro influencers. Whenever you see a micro influencer launch a product and they have success with that product, this is the exact approach that they use. It's an approach that works, and I want to share it with you. So if you want to learn exactly what this approach is in detail, step by step, I highly recommend you watch this entire video. So last Sunday, I was on a coaching call with a client, a beginner who wants to get started with e-commerce. And she basically challenged me to give her a strategy that I've never shared with anyone, but would likely work for her and for her business. Now, this is not exactly a strategy that I've never shared with anyone before, but this is a strategy that is really underused, as most people are still stuck using the old strategy, the old way of launching their own e-commerce business. So I proceeded and I shared this exact strategy with her, and I thought to myself once again, why not put it in a video and put it on my YouTube channel so that everyone can benefit from this information. Now let me dive into the strategy. How can you actually launch your e-commerce business in reverse and have a much better opportunity to actually succeed at that? Okay, so the strategy is very simple. It's not overly complicated. However, to help you to understand, I'm going to be putting it in context for you with a scenario. So I've mentioned several times on this channel before that the success of a small e-commerce business will be dependent on how well you actually market that business. Approximately 99% of the probability that your e-commerce business will succeed will be dependent on how well you market and how well you execute your marketing campaigns. And as you're well aware, marketing is how you get your product in front of people that would most likely be interested in what you're selling and would most likely buy from you. And as you're well aware as well, if no one buys your product, then you don't have a business. And that is why so many businesses fail, and that's because they simply didn't have a good approach to marketing, or they didn't execute on their marketing plans well. Now, when you take the typical route to actually launching your e-commerce business, which is to create the product, create content, to build an audience, to get people to buy, you are actually hoping that there's an audience of people out there ready and waiting to buy from you. But that is not exactly how it works. It can actually work this way, but it does take a very long time, because it takes time for you to build up that relationship with people, to get them to feel comfortable enough to want to buy from you and from your business. What you have to understand as well is that there's a lot of competition in the market, and your product, though it may have a unique brand, a unique identity, it's not usually very unique. I'm sure whatever your product is can be found somewhere else, or someone can actually take that product and recreate it. So that is why it's very important for you to build that relationship and to have that audience. So this is where the reverse approach comes in, and why starting your e-commerce business in reverse is such a great idea in 2020. So as opposed to doing the typical things of creating a product, creating content, building the audience and making sales, what you find that is working, especially for these micro influencers, is that they have spent so much time building their audience and building relationship with their audience that when it comes to launching a product, they actually have a lot more success than people who start using the old method. So their reverse approach then to launching and having a successful e-commerce business is not about creating a product, creating content, building an audience and making sales, but instead what you find that they do and do it so well is that they create first. So they create the content first, then they build the audience, then they launch the product, and then they make the sales. So as you can see, there's a slight shift in how they approach e-commerce in general, and this seems to be working extremely well for them. So if I was starting an e-commerce business now, this is the approach that I would be using for my e-commerce brand. What you'd have realized so far from watching this video is that just by simply rearranging the order in which we carried out the steps for launching our e-commerce business, we created a totally different strategy and created a strategy that is much more likely to succeed than the previous strategy. So if you remember, what we did in the original strategy was to create the product first, but in this reverse strategy, we're actually creating the audience first. And there is some psychology behind this and why it works so well. So let me explain that for you in a bit. So in marketing, it is said that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And by simply creating this content first and building this audience instead of creating the product first, we're actually building a community of people that will know, like, and trust us. So when we do choose to launch that product, these are people that we already have a relationship with, and this will make it much more easier for them to actually want to support us, want to buy from us, because chances are they have been consuming our content for a while, they know us, they have been tracking us across the internet, and it makes it much easier for them to actually want to spend their money with us. So if I was starting my business now in 2020, this is one of the approaches that I would be using in my business. It's an approach that works. There is scientific research behind it, as I just explained, and I would really highly recommend that you give this a shot if you're actually really planning to launch a successful e-commerce business. Now, just to recap and to give you a summary of exactly what was discussed in this video, the old approach of launching an e-commerce business would require you to actually create the product, then create content, build an audience, and sell that product. But in this reverse approach, I am recommending to you that you create the content first, you build the audience next, then you launch the product, and then you make the sale. And this is a much more sustainable approach, a much easier approach to launching an e-commerce business. And if you want to be successful, this is what I recommend for you. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. I want to encourage you as well to make sure that you take this information and you use it to your advantage. This is a great strategy that is working for e-commerce businesses now in 2020 and beyond. So if you want to give your business a great chance of succeeding, make sure you use this strategy. Also, if you think this video deserves a like, please give it a thumbs up. It would be much appreciated. If you know someone who would benefit from this information, go right ahead and share this video with them. And finally, if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and get subscribed and make sure you click that notification bell so you get notified of my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I would love to see you in my next video.